Hello there and thanks for choosing RTV News. We start with the headlines. The plenary session of the Chamber of Deputies has decided to invite the Minister of Infrastructure to give a verbal explanation regarding the challenge of the technology used to issue building permits. Also ahead, during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Rwanda highlighted that future payments for technology equipment will be done in installments. We're glad you chose RTV News. I am Isabel Masozera now. Top of our coverage. The plenary session of the Chamber of Deputies has decided to invite the Minister of Infrastructure to give a verbal explanation regarding the challenge of the technology being used to issue building permits. Now, meanwhile, some of the residents show that it is difficult to get construction permits, which leaves room for corruption. Olive Ntete begins our edition.
In the city of Kigali, numerous buildings, including residential and commercial buildings, are constantly being built with the help of building permits. Residents of places without physical plans or where roads have not yet been established say that they are burdened by the lack of building permits, which leads some to build illegally and others to offer bribes in order to be granted permission to do so. I requested for the permit. I even went to the office of the city of Kigali. They have never granted my request. And because of renting, the house is currently being renovated and you cannot do anything about it. And when you are not in your house, you're not allowed to build. For example, the owner might decide to do renovations about the toilet and then change it the next day.
The burden is the process of receiving building permits. Let's say if the government eases the process in issuing building permits, that would allow people to build with their available resources. You would find that many people are renting, yet they have the land to build on.
While presenting the in-depth report of the Auditor General Office on technology in issuing building permits, deputies in the Committee of Land, Agriculture, Animal Husbandry and Environment pointed out that there are pressing issues that make residents delay to get services related to construction. There are residents who are not provided with proper services and they are delayed to get construction permits, where it might even take 1,000 days with no answer. They are also charged with extra money and the other various issues that have been presented. The pressing problems that appear in this technology include the lack of management system, the lack of planning for the project, the inability to administer the technology, and the inability to safeguard the data held in the technology. The plenary session of the Chamber of Deputies decided to invite the Minister of Infrastructure to give verbal explanations on the pressing issues that appear in the technology used to issue construction documents. There are still various issues regarding the delay in issuing construction permits, not facilitating residents to find information on their pending requests, charging them extra amount of money, and rules on the meter squared, and other various issues. There are also problems regarding follow-up on activities. There is no established way to follow up on the use of PPMIS or even knowing the current issues during its use. The Parliament's Chamber of Deputies is requesting the Minister of Infrastructure to give verbal explanations. Although the funding for this technology project has not yet been determined, the Office of the Auditor General reports that based on the information that is currently available, the Rwandan government has invested more than 226 million in enhancing the management and performance of this system. Olive Ntete, RTV News.
On the same matter, the plenary session of the deputies in the Rwandan parliament have invited two ministers to give verbal explanations regarding the challenges that face slaughterhouses across the country. We get this story from Prince Manzi.
In different parts of the Kigali city, we found animals being butchered in the same place they are cooked and sold, instead of being approved butcheries. When they are brought, you butcher it and call the veterinary for checking. Some of the citizens say that they do not know how to tell a good raw meat from a bad meat.
I love meat so much. When we find them in butcheries, we believe them to be of standard.
Concerns on the meat standards prompted the preliminary session of the Deputies' Chamber in the Rwandan Parliament to call the Minister of Trade and Industry and the Minister of Local Government for oral explanations. The chairperson of the Committee on Land, Agriculture, Livestock and Environment that developed on this issue, Maria Alice Kayumba, states that at least 20 batteries that they visited are unstandardized.
The report demonstrates that they inspected 25 batteries. Among those, none was of standard in terms of houses, tools, employees and others. It was found that 36 out of 47 batteries did not have documents supporting that the meats are of good quality. It was also found that 15 out of 28 meat transporters inspected are not authorized, leading to being poorly transported and on low quality objects. There is dirtiness in batteries.
Before concluding the calling of the said ministers, deputies debated on how these oral explanations will be delivered, as some preferred that explanations be provided by the Prime Minister. Other issues found in the report of the Committee on Land, Agriculture, Livestock and Environment on the analysis of the Auditor General's inspection report include undocumented batteries, those placed between houses of citizens, those without pits, as well as delivering meat on poor quality objects.
Moving on, during the ongoing World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Rwanda highlighted the fact that future payments for technology equipment will be done in installments to enable everyone to have access to various services digitally. Olivon Tete brings us this report.
While technology is currently driving the world, the number of people without access to its services is still concerningly high, according to the World Economic Forum. It's a global problem, according to Rima Qureshi, Chief Staff Officer and Executive Vice President at Verizon Communication, a company which specializes in communications and technology services.
We have the problem as much as Verizon in the US as we do in other locations in Africa. So we have these deserts, we have the same challenge, we have aspects of the overall population, regardless of where you are, that don't connect and are not part of the digital economy. In the past, it was about we don't have the connectivity and therefore we can't get online. And I think it isn't as simple as that, because if you look at it from that perspective, if 95% of the globe is covered with connectivity, why is it that there's 3 billion people that are not connected? So that's where we have to dig into, where is that problem? Why is it that there's still 3 billion people that are not connected?
One of the themes covered on Wednesday at the World Economic Forum gathering in Davos, Switzerland, was the problem of technology that has not reached everyone. In discussions that reiterated on existing challenges and ways to find solutions, the Minister of Information, Communication Technology and Innovation, Ingabire Paula, pointed out that the lack of resources is among the reasons behind this problem.
The price is still very high. I mean, if you want a very good smartphone, you're talking about $60 to $100. Now, this is going to be competing with some of the basic needs that any household is going to want to have. But at the same time, as a government that is putting a lot of effort to digitize services to make sure that whether it's healthcare services, education, financial inclusion, everything, we're using digital as a foundation to drive access to some of these services, we cannot afford to ignore the fact that we still have a big percentage of our population that still can't afford some of these services.
Based on this, Minister Paula Ingabire noted some of the things that Rwanda plans to do in order to solve the problem.
Now, there are many schools of thought. There is a school of thought around, can we make affordable low-cost devices for some of the emerging and developing economies? But there's also a school of thought around how do we think about innovative financing models. So many parts of the African continent, Rwanda not excluded, if you want to buy a device, any device, even a basic feature phone, you have to pay the full cost upfront. Not so many people can afford to do that. But if we're able to allow for installment payment, maybe you want to pay for a phone over 24 months, over 12 months, 18 months, 6 months, depending on what you can afford, then you make it very affordable or very easy for most of the people that couldn't necessarily afford to pay $100 upfront to really access this particular tool that is going to enable them to really meaningfully participate in the digital economy. So this is one thing that we're really working with. But even as we do the innovative financing models, we want to couple it with what we call bundled services. You don't want a citizen who can't afford a $100 phone to worry about paying $5 every month for the phone and then think about another $5 for the service, whether it's voice, data services that they need to make use of this device. And so really creating those partnerships that allow for us to provide a bundled package. You walk in, you get a phone with all the services. Maybe instead of paying $15 to 3 different people, you're paying 12 or 10.
Rwanda has a vision to develop technology and also to become the hub of technology. The idea came in 2016 when a similar meeting of the World Economic Forum was held in Kigali. Meanwhile, the services provided by government institutions must be 100% technology-based, as included in the National Strategy for Transformation and in the Plan of Vision 2050. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Digital inclusion is absolutely critical today. Thank you, Olive Ntete, for that report. Now we go to Nyagatare district, where people are criticizing the decision of the district to give an entrepreneur control of the public cemeteries, who they say has set high prices that are becoming a burden to them. Now the administration of the district says that, well, the decision was made to provide security for the buried. However, the entrepreneur is also speaking out, saying he is making losses because those who choose to bury are deciding to do it at home. More in this report. 2 months ago, Nyagatare district cemeteries were handed over to an entrepreneur who also set prices in 3 categories. The first category for low-income earners is 30,000 Rwanda francs for space at the cemetery. The second category, 300,000 Rwanda francs. And the third category, 500,000 Rwanda francs at graves. However, residents say the prices are a big burden.
Ikibazo cyo gushyingura kiraremereye.
The burden of burying has become overwhelming for us as residents because the prices set are too high, and there are those who are needy without anything, which is beyond us, and we are not allowed to bury at home. It's against the law. You find yourself in an unfortunate situation sometimes. Your loved one is sick for a very long time and you're financially exhausted because of medical care, and then you also have to pay for the burial, which becomes too much. Barija, Ryabega and Matimba cemeteries have been handed over to an entrepreneur called Intambara Godfrey, who prefers not to be seen on the screen. He says that the contracts he has with the district determine the prices he set for the public. However, he is making losses.
The prices are set based on the contract. They even bury at home, and the leadership interferes. Different leadership levels ensure that they encourage residents to stop burying at home, and we also enforce what we signed.
The Vice Mayor of Economic Development of Nyagatare District says the cemetery inspections were done to ensure the safety, but if it appears that the costs are very heavy for the people, there's always another course of action.
The reason we handed over the cemeteries to an entrepreneur is because we had some residents complaining that after burying, when they later visit, they find the materials that were used to bury their loved ones are missing. And so, we decided we needed someone in charge of helping our residents with burial matters. Until now, we had not received people complaining about high prices, but that can be investigated to determine if there is need to revise the prices.
Before unveiling this new approach and prices, the person paid 6,000 Rwanda francs for burying to the local authorities, and as for the rest, according to his or her ability. However, the high cemetery prices have started causing people to bury the dead at their homes. You're still watching RwandaTV News. Rwanda and Belgium have started a cooperation in treating diseases including tuberculosis, neglected transmitted diseases, as well as malaria, which will be done through the Institute of Tropical Medicine in both countries. This story comes to us from Jessica Gasaro.
Rwanda and the Institute of Tropical Medicine have a 5-year program from 2022 to 2026 where Rwanda will work with Belgium regarding the treatment of diseases, the distribution of medical facility, and the treatment of people using antibiotics. As the Director General of the Rwanda Biochemical Center, Professor Mambo Muvunyi Claude mentioned, this partnership aims to build the capacity of medical institutions in Rwanda so they can maintain a better public health.
This collaboration between Rwanda through the Rwanda Biomedical Center, but also the University of Rwanda with the Institute for Tropical Medicine is a collaboration which is going to really strengthen our institutions to make sure that we are capable of making sure we prevent, diagnose, but also control infectious disease that include malaria, tuberculosis, but also fighting against antimicrobial resistance in Rwanda. To really plan and implement some of the activities to really strengthen the national reference laboratory to become a supranational TB laboratory, which will really not only oversee the labs in Rwanda, but also some labs in the regions to make sure that TB diagnosis is improved. We are going also to work with CHK through the University of Rwanda to make sure that we also establish an antimicrobial stewardship program within CHK to become also a center of excellence to really also help other hospitals to really also create that antimicrobial stewardship within their hospitals.
The director of the Tropical Institute of Medicine, Lynn Rigaud, praises the progress made by Rwanda in the field of tuberculosis treatment.
Rwanda is doing very well actually in fighting tuberculosis. If you compare to neighboring countries, the incidence, so the number of new cases of tuberculosis that are detected each year, is significantly lower in Rwanda as compared to the neighboring countries. So this is a result of already a long-term TB control program that is really functioning well. Nevertheless, there are some problems that remain. So it is still a poverty disease, so it's a communicable disease, it's transmitted, so once there is a case it can be transmitted. And there is also the issue of drug-resistant tuberculosis, which means that you cannot be treated with a standard regimen, but you need additional new drugs. And this resistant tuberculosis is also spreading. And even though there's good diagnostics already in place, the accessibility to these diagnoses can always be improved, and interpreting the results can always be improved to even come to a better control.
Some of the activities in this partnership increasing the capacity of the laboratory to diagnose tuberculosis in Rwanda. Tuberculosis is one of the diseases that worry the health authorities in Rwanda because it kills 400 people per year, and last year there were 5,535 new tuberculosis patients. Dr. Patrick Migambi says that the way to protect people from tuberculosis is to find a patient and make sure they are put on medication. The other concern he had was that some patients with tuberculosis don't go for treatment in time. Even those who start medication don't finish them or take them properly.
Umuntu wese urwaye igituntu ashobora kwanduza hagati y'abantu 10-20.
A person suffering from tuberculosis can infect between 10 and 20 people, depending on where they are. Besides, their medicine is taken for 6 months. Most of the patients reach 3 to 4 months and stop coming for their medication. There are also those who take medicine wrongly, but for those who die from tuberculosis, it is often caused by late treatment or maybe with other diseases including HIV. About 75% of our patients who die have a nutritional problem, which is why it is recommended that you give medicine alongside with the nutritional support.
Imiti ubaha biba ngombwa yuko ureba n'uburyo ubunganira mu mirire.
According to Rwanda Biochemical Center, tuberculosis treatment in Rwanda is provided free of cost through government and other health partners. For ordinary tuberculosis patients, when one is admitted to the hospital, the bill from the hospital is 150,000 Rwandan francs. For those patients who are on the third level of tuberculosis, when they get hospitalized, the bill goes up to 2 million Rwandan francs. For this reason, they are advocating for nutritional support for patients on medication. Jessica Gasaro, RTV News.
Matters, RwandaTV board has kicked off a feasibility study phase to establish TVET centers of excellence in all 30 districts across the country. Adam Squizera filed this report.
During the planning workshop that brought together different stakeholders with the aim of deriving the objectives and the operational strategies for the future of the centers of excellency, which are set to be built in various 30 districts of the country through the partnership of the government of South Korea. The schools will serve as centers of excellency to all other schools in the district in a basic education program, where all this will contribute much to the development in those districts.
We have everything in Rwamagana, but especially the vocational school we need should be having electricity, industry, mining or sewing, since we even have the basic equipments for it. This is the school we mainly need.
You may either establish a school for tourism, which is very needed here in Nyanza, or the other option on how to neighboring districts can facilitate the youth around. The curriculum of the Centers of Excellency includes the integration of the 2050 national strategy and the economic opportunities which are available in each district, as noted by the Director General of RwandaTV Board, Paul Umukunzi, who reiterated on the expected outcomes from the schools.
We are trying to raise the quality standards in TVET, and the centers of excellence will be, as I said, they will be offering a very high tech training offer, and we feel like graduates from these schools will be really highly qualified, and they shall contribute to the economic transformation of our country. The challenges we are trying to address is, of course, the lack of a quality training system in our country. And as we move forward, and with time, we feel like we are now improving. And these centers of excellence is another step ahead, which will really help us to improve the quality of training delivered in our country.
A basic feasibility study on the construction activities of the 30 centers of excellence in each district estimated the total cost of about 150 billion Rwandan francs. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Thank you, Adam. Staying on education matters, the Ministry of Education and its partners convened for 3 days to have discussions on how to strengthen the primary schools, also considered as the foundation for quality education. Prince Manzi.
Half of the budget given to the Ministry of Education is invested in primary schools programs, and there is a lot done for the trainers, schools and students, particularly for better education, including school feeding, among others. Some of the teachers and students comment on some of the challenges hindering their studies.
The issue is the large number of students, and I request that there will be establishment of new rooms for the number of students to be lowered. The books are few to the extent that there are students who do not access them. We want new books to help us because there are even children who do not know how to read. The issue is that there are parents who do not follow up on their children in terms of helping them in their homework and school-related activities. Instead, they fill them with movies and TVs.
The senior education specialist at the World Bank, Homa Kidwai, states that the World Bank said $340 million that are being used in primary education since 2019 to 2027. According to Uma, Rwanda has a political will to improve the quality of education.
I think an area where Rwanda is very strong and is an inspiration to the world is in the area of political commitment. Not many countries are as committed to improving the quality of human development as Rwanda is. The commitment is coming all the way from His Excellency's office down to the level of schools. And I think the structures and the organizational systems really allow for that commitment to come all the way down through performance contracts, through systems, and compliance structures. So that's a huge strength that Rwanda has and should continue to capitalize on.
Although 50% of the budget is invested in the primary school level and more than 90% of the students who should study are in school, not all of them continue to high school. Some of the parents and teachers say that it is due to poverty and misunderstandings in families.
For instance, a parent comes and insults the child due to the drunkenness and other things, but it should not be necessary that the child move out of school because he definitely loses his future.
Sometimes you find the student did not eat the previous day and maybe lacking outfits for taking to school, and you find that going to school is difficult. The Minister of State in charge of primary and secondary school education in the Ministry of Education, Gaspard Twagirayezu, reveals that there are measurements to solve this issue. There are different programs we are working on, including teaching them, school feeding, supporting teachers in terms of raising their salaries, which made teachers work hard, and not taking offs, because teachers who take offs and students move out of school. There's a lot being done so that a student starting in primary 1 would finish his primary studies as well as secondary. In these 3 days discussions, the Ministry of Education and its partners are jointly looking at how the primary school level as the basis of quality education can be addressed. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Prince. Now, institutions related to taxes and customs in Rwanda are having ongoing collective conversations to analyze and review necessary changes regarding the tax policy that would help the country to develop but also not burden taxpayers. Now, Rwanda Revenue Authority assures the general public that the amendments will be done on various taxes, including customs.
It has been a while, citizens demonstrating that there should be changes in the tax policy, as they say it is a burden. The high tax are found especially on land as it continues to increase. We would like a deduction. If the government would revise on when one should be requested the EBM, depending on his duration in business. In the 3 days discussions organized by the Institute of Certified Public Accounts of Rwanda convened 200 people. They are tackling on how taxes can be collected by not burdening the payer, as elaborated by Amin Miramago of this institute.
The
reason why we established these discussions is because in the country there are tax-related laws being changed. So this is the right time for people to give ideas for the law to be effective, because citizens are to pay taxes happily, and this eases the job for tax collectors. These discussions come after the request of the President of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, of revising the higher tax prices burdening citizens. The Commissioner General of the Rwanda Revenue Authority, Pascal Bizimana Ruganinwari, states that different amendments are underway, including customs of local authorities. Today, we are discussing what could be done for institutions, and also on tax collected by local administrations. Citizens say that are burdening them. Also, these custom fees of cleaning, security, we are following it up all to see what can be done to lower this burden, as well as preserving the tax, because that is the duty of the government. Rwanda is one of the countries where entrepreneurs say the taxes are high. The example is the value-added tax that is on 18% in Rwanda, as well as Burundi, Tanzania, and Uganda. Kenya is the only country in the East African community with a 16% value-added tax. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Thanks for choosing RwandaTV. It's always a pleasure giving you the latest in terms of what's happening in Rwanda and beyond. I am Isabel Masozera. Take care.